You can't ever get anybody on time, can you, Harry?
No, no, I can't. And for some reason, Jen set up this meeting on our normal corporate Zoom account, which is good because that way I can access the recording afterwards, A. And B, we pay extra to have higher definition and better audio. And she set up the Zoom, this particular Zoom, first in the corporate account, and then she sent the invite from her from her personal Zoom account. So we have two meetings scheduled, and I have a feeling she's probably in the other meeting right now. So
Yeah, that could be the case.
it would not be BeerNet Radio if we just didn't have ridiculously preventable tech issues.
Oh, you have a tie.
Anyway, welcome to BeerNet Radio, a special edition of Wednesday Warehouse on Friday, June 16th. We just had a lot of news that came in late in the week, and so we thought we'd lay this down a few days early. And maybe we'll do another one next week. We know, why not? We can. We own this program. We don't have producers that we answer to. We don't have anybody that we answer to, obviously.
Obviously. We answer to Harry.
So let's just start out with, AB did the right thing here. They have announced relief for their wholesalers, much needed relief, working with their wholesaler panel. They came out with this plan, basically recognized that there are differences in pain depending on where you are in the country as a distributor. So they created 3 tiers, and let me pull up Beer Business Daily this morning. And through just some old-fashioned gumshoe reporting, we discovered that they've created 3 tiers of relief. Tier A are the wholesalers that didn't have as much pain as the others. If their April and May STR performance was better than being down 12.9%, they'll get 20 cents a case on their June through December STRs, meaning sales to retailers. So they're using April and May as kind of the benchmark that puts you in one of these 3 tiers. Once you calculate which tier you're in that tier permanently for the rest of the year. So tier A, you get 20 cents a case. Tier B is if your April through May trends were between negative 13% and negative 17.9%, and you get 30 cents a case on your June through December STRs. Tier C is the worst case scenario. If your sales were down more than negative 18%, and these are volume sales, you'll get 50 cents a case on your June through December STRs. And, just eyeballing this, guys, it looks to me like probably tier B is the one that has the most wholesalers in it, at least by volume. And then they're also going to give relief on the fuel surcharge that distributors have been paying. They'll give that relief through December, and they're also going to, what they've already been doing is increase their local marketing spend in each market and offer an extra 5 days of credit where legal. Now, in some states, they're called standard FOB states or uniform FOB, meaning the brewery can't offer different incentives or different pricing to different distributors within the state. So they're just going to do a weighted average of the April and May STRs and then apply that. So every distributor in that state will be assigned a specific tier. So that's it in a nutshell. We really haven't heard a lot of independent feedback yet on this from AB distributors. We've heard mainly from people that are on the wholesaler council who, were probably encouraged to reach out to us that this was a great deal. And it looks like a pretty good deal. And by the way, these cents per case can be used in any way the distributor wishes. I think the hope is that they'll use it to incentivize their salespeople and to not lay off drivers or salespeople or reduce routes or reduce call ratios. Call ratios meaning the amount of times that a distributor calls on an account and delivers to an account per week or per month in some cases. If you're in a rural area and you don't always service every account every week. So that's it in a nutshell. The last Wednesday warehouse, when Jordan's not on the call, I sometimes get worked up, and he's not a soothing. And I gave kind of a speech, and I think it does. When I re-listen to it, I sound like a whiny baby, and it sounds like I'm just mad because I'm not getting the respect that I think we deserve. But anyway, I know you wanted to clarify some things on that.
Well, just for the record, we did not know that Harry was going to cold open like that last show. And Harry, being the fearless leader that he is, and Harry, you've earned the right to go off like that. I think you built this thing. And if we're being scapegoated, that's not okay. And we've been gingerly trying to cover this Bud Light ordeal, and we have gotten some pushback from some people. But the reality is that this is like the Bud Light butterfly effect, right? Bud Light flaps its wings, and suddenly some other suppliers might not be able to supply their distributors. Distributors have to lay off people, right? So this is not a thing that we can't cover. We have to cover it. And for those of you who don't know, for every one interview that Harry's done with whatever outlet, he hasn't done 30. And trust me, he has the time to do all 31.
That was a backward slight. I have a lot of time on my hands.
I'm only half kidding there. No, but what I wanted to add is that, personally, I should have said this last pod, but I do appreciate the AB comms team over the last couple of years, and AB US leadership. I feel like we've had a good relationship. Michelle, I don't know. So I am appreciative of them personally. That's just me. And there are the mores of the show coverage. The deal is we go and then we have to submit our copy, and sometimes they gut that copy. That's the deal. That's the deal with many of the brewers that let us cover their shows. But just to kind of even the score there. But again, then back to your point, AB's interest right now is containment, right? And so that means that some people aren't getting all the information, and our job is to allow the beer industry to do the best job that it can for all of its, employees and players. And that's where we come in, and that's our job. But I think it all kind of dovetails into what Brendan's doing. And I wonder how long they've been working on this, relief, which I'm sure, hopefully, like you said, Harry, we haven't gotten a ton of response yet. And what we have has been a little bit canned. I don't mean that in a negative way, but I think they're kind of putting their heads down and saying, okay, how much exactly are we going to get, and that sort of thing. And I hope it's a step in the right direction. But one of the responses we did get, was the idea, and we hear this a lot, so I'm not pigeonholing this person, but they need to move marketing back to St. Louis. And that's interesting, because Brendan also mentioned in his memo yesterday, he kind of obliquely addressed consumers and said, hey, we hear you, and we have new marketing coming out, and it's going to be all about easy to drink, easy to enjoy, their new campaign, AKA nothing controversial here. So it all dovetails together, because the whole St. Louis versus New York comparison at SAMCOM this year, when they unveiled this whole campaign, I don't think we've reported this, but I feel comfortable saying it because it's been long enough. Distributors have talked about it. Daniel Blake, who of course is, I don't know if he's still on leave or no longer with the company, interviewed 3 sticks in a video, because the whole thing was, he was asking about how did Bud Light come to be, and, what is it actually about, and this sort of thing. And it was a very enlightening video, and we meant to get it into the copy, but there's just so much content at those things that I don't think we actually ended up writing about it.
And just to clarify, 3 Sticks is August Busch III, who, legendary beerman. Right. He basically rode Budweiser and Bud Light to the share that they were at their peak. Almost 50% market share in total.
But to me, that was almost akin to like him giving his blessing to this new campaign. Now, of course, this new campaign was not the Dylan Mulvaney thing, but the whole idea that there's this disjunction between, St. Louis and New York, I just think I don't know that that's fair. I mean, they literally upended everybody from St. Louis and plopped them in New York 10 years ago. I mean, that's not the same exact people who are there. Also, let's not forget, Trump is from New York, and he's got huge pull in rural areas, right? So I think that's a little too simplistic. And I also think if the commercial we're about to see I think that's what Brendan promised. If it's the one that I saw at Samcom, I think it's a great commercial. And that's the other point I would make is I think the new marketing campaign is actually really good. It finally shows people in relatable situations drinking beer, right? Like Dilly Dilly didn't do that. It was a fun campaign, but you can't drink a beer today in medieval times, right? But you can drink a beer at the pool, or at the bar, right? So anyway, that's my spiel.
Those are some great points. I did trade a couple of texts with Jennifer Morris, and because she had said, "Hey, I thought we had a good relationship." I was like, "No, we do have a good relationship, and we appreciate what she and her team does." No doubt. My rant was more about the leadership and, me not getting enough attention. So
I wanted to add something in there because, Jen, you were talking about containment. That's the MO right now for them. And I just wanted to point out that, we're blessed with a wealth of data in CPG, and that data has become haunting for AB, and scans have provided a measurement stick of success in this boycott. And most other companies, all they have to worry about are bogus market cap losses floating around on Twitter. And they don't really have to reveal the damage till next earnings. And so by that time, you've lost the attention of most people. Yep. In this case, this passionate group of pissed off people, they see Bud Light down 20%. Actual scan data for a good chunk of sales. Down 25% the next week, it losing its best-selling status to Especial. And they're high-fiving each other and saying, it's working. Let's keep our foot on the gas.
Right.
And so the strategy of hoping it blows over doesn't work for AB because of scans and CPG and the industry that they're in. And I can understand why they don't want to talk to anyone or how they feel like talking to anyone or any info shared propels this situation further. Sure.
That's a great point, because the leadership at ABI, let's just say, has said, we know how to deal with these sorts of things. We've dealt with it in other countries. And the best thing to do is not perpetuate the news cycle. So don't enter the news cycle at all. What other countries maybe don't have is such public scan data, that, like you said, perpetuates the story because it's very public and it's flowing. If you're any kind of reporter, you can get it. And there's been some pushback in some media outlets that say, well, the Modelo thing is just dollars and it's just scan data. And that's true. But on the other hand, I don't think AB's on-premise trends make them look any better.
Bud Light's, right? Exactly.
I'm sorry, Bud Light. Yes, right, Bud Light's on-premise trends. So dollars is what matter. Not you can't take volume. You can't take cases to the bank, as my old boss loved to say.
Yeah, but no, Jordan, you mentioned market cap, and this is kind of. So I think what we're all saying here is what we've said last pod, that it's going to be really hard for Bud Light to come back. Hopefully this local marketing investment with this new campaign, hopefully it helps. But I think their strategy is also containment of the brand itself, because they're now like Boston Beer, right? Like Boston Beer really needs Truly to stabilize so Twisted Tea can do its job. Now AB really needs Bud Light to stabilize so that Mich Ultra can do its job. And in recent scan data, we're seeing it come back to week by week, come back to like flat. I think it's going to grow again by year's end because we're seeing that improve. So they've got their work cut out for them.
The big brands, Mich Ultra and Busch Light, or Budweiser, kind of creeping back, which is good.
Well,
and
I know that you're a big Busch Light peach drinker, Jordan, because you just like the packaging. You like that peach logo, that emoji. I know what you're doing over there.
Whoa, hey.
I know, right?
I'm going dirty. It's Dirty Friday at Beer Net Radio.
Hashtag Dirty Friday, air horns. Hopefully you put an air horn in here, Harry.
I'm with you, Jen, though. I think the new marketing, just kind of getting back out there and airing something that is, benign and makes people feel good will kind of move people along. I hope so.
I think so. So, what's the latest on Cancun Cruz? Is this thing?
God,
is this? It's just overtly political.
Dang.
So we know that he doesn't. I don't think really care about underage drinking in this case. But So, having said that, does this thing have any teeth? I mean, could it turn into something real?
So we waited on that story for a little bit because we knew that more was coming out. But Bianca actually got confirmation last week that the BI is in fact, undergoing an investigation. And then of course, Cruz unearthed new evidence that there was some sort of Bud Light hashtag that Dylan Mulvaney had used prior to the March Madness thing. So there's that wrinkle, but who knows?
Right.
I don't know. What do y'all think?
I was going to say, I just thought it was funny that we heard there was more news coming. We weren't sure which outlet, and then it comes in the Daily Mail.
Right. That bastion of journalism.
Yeah. And it's Cruz like showing up saying like, hey guys, I'm still here and I've been stonewalled by AB. You're never going to believe it. Like,
hey,
of
man,
course, dude. What do you think?
Don't knock the Daily Mail. I like it because you can just read the headline. The headline's the whole story because they headline like Jen does. It's like 5 sentences. And then
headline, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point.
Yeah, right.
That is not how I headline.
No. I'm talking about the Daily Mail, Jen. I'm not.
You know what? I got to say something, Jen, about your headlines. You do have the longer headlines, and it used to kind of irritate me, as I know I've told you. But now I'm like turning into a long headline guy. Like, okay.
I don't. So here's the thing, Harry. I don't think they're my headlines. I think they're all of our headlines.
Jordan, you're throwing Jordan under the bus, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I actually think that these days you don't know what any of us have written, like, because you'll be like, great story, Bianca, and I'll be like, that's mine.
I made one mistake. I think I'm pretty good at, Hey, Jordan, good write up on the BI meeting this morning.
Oh, thank you.
See, was I wrong? I wrong?
You got
By the way,
1 out of 1.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I slid in a late story. About 10 o'clock last night, I was looking through and I saw that Brett Cooper at Consumer Edge had, run the numbers, and these crossover brands, meaning non-alc brands that have an alcohol version now, are just not doing so well.
Well, except for the Beast Unleashed. That's doing pretty well. It's
doing well, but only because of increased distribution. The markets that they're already in, they've already hit peak share and they're losing share. And Mountain Dew looks like it's a disaster. And
Mountain Dew is different,
the only thing that's growing is Simply, because they came out with the peach flavor that's on fire. But if they didn't have peach, I'm wondering if their year-over-year same market sales they're probably not that great either. And I think the point being, and then Lipton hadn't done anything. So,
well, that's I
would be surprised if Blue Cloud doesn't shut down next year. I bet it's just. First of all, the legal problems they're having, Mississippi, all these states are saying no dice. They're like, okay, Boston Beer's going to lose their license if they continue with this. I mean, that's a wake up call. My point being that it is a lot of headache for a declining, terrible, segment, and I wouldn't be surprised if they just fold it into their Pepsi bottlers or they sell the rights to beer distributors. That's Harry's big nasty Friday prediction. What did we call it? Freaky Friday?
Freaky Friday. Jen and I were talking about it, and I told her, I was like, at some point Boston has to look at each other and say, is this worth it anymore?
Well, so that's a good point, Jay, because I spoke to Spencer Nevins in Michigan, and I asked him that question. I was like, why do you think it's worth it to Boston? And also, like, why would your wholesalers support this? They don't want to lose Boston and FIFCO in the state. And of course, he was like, well, they know that it's not their doing. And I like Spencer. He's great. But he also was like, you want me to be provocative? Well, I think it's worth it to Boston because if there's already a shared interest between Pepsi and Boston, what else could be going on there? Which we've heard before. I don't know that I buy that, but the fact remains that, Jim Cook, his succession plan of not dying one day is not going to work forever. So
shame on you. Shush your mouth, Jen.
I love me some Jim Cook. Don't get me wrong. I do. At the Encompass show, they had old school, like black and white pics of Jim Cook. And it was like, wow, Jim Cook, just like me. He's just like me.
The stars are just like us. They pump gas. They go to Starbucks. They get their dry cleaning. It's so stupid, but I love it. I'm addicted to it. All right, guys. Well, unless we have any other heated topic, anything, Bueller?
I'm out Wednesday because I'm flying with the kids to Flagstaff, where we will be relocating for a month.
Good for you.
Nice.
So
Flagstaff,
Arizona. To escape
Arizona.
the heat. And before you say, "I got news for you, Arizona's hot," Flagstaff is elevated, and it is not nearly as hot as the rest of the state, and especially not Austin right now.
It's nice actually. It's, Jen, it's dry heat.
Yes,
dry heat,
which is great for my hair. So
I mean, there is. I walked outside to walk the dog this morning, and I almost drowned in the humidity. Like I was getting more water in my throat and mouth than I was air. It was terrible. And there's just all this smoke in the air. I hope you guys are not going outside and breathing, because I think it's the Mexico fires. I think they burn their fields.
Canada fires.
Yeah, I think we get ours from Mexico. God, these terrible neighbors just dumping smoke on us.
I think we get ours from Mexico.
Yeah.
You're
All
right,
right,
Harry.
guys. Well, listen, have a good weekend, and we'll shout at you next week. Don't forget to leave a comment.
Smash
and like
it.
the video. Smash it.
And where's
baby.
my boy Dipendra? Did I, or whatever his name is? I think I offended him. I'm sorry, D.
Yeah, he's.
Come
you
back,
know what?
please.
No emojis from Dipendra.
Dipendra's not a simp. Okay, he's not gonna. You've insulted him, and now he's gone. But we got like 20 likes, so that's good. And then, also Jen. Oh shit! I lost my train of thought.
What? Comb my hair before I come on the pod?
No, don't get old, guys. It sucks.
Oh, same.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See ya.